Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
Well, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kai, and you are listening to the Retro Zoo Super Show on WTRI in Kakariko Village. So, we are back, and I do appreciate everyone's patience last week, and I know people who listen from the future don't even necessarily notice that we missed a week, but we are actually in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. And that is affecting even us, and that is why I am coming to you solo today. And we are going to depart from our current series, in order to, just let things get back to normal a little bit before we return to RTSs. I would not do any show on RTSs without Steven here. I mean, he has been waiting for this moment, since day one of this program. And if I covered Stargate without him here, he would throw a fit, and it would be most entertaining, except that he would then quit, and I would have to do all of these by myself by that point. But in the meantime, we are here. We are going to be talking a little bit about actually a game I absolutely loved as a kid and played on my Game Boy, and I have This is a game that, and we're talking about the Game Boy game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan. This is actually a game that I just banged my head against over and over and over and over and over again until I had every foot soldier memorized, every enemy, where they were going to go, what they were going to do. And I could fly through it. And I remember taking the game to school one day, and it does have a reputation of being a very hard game. I don't know. At the end of everything, I didn't think of it as such because I had it memorized. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know necessarily. I can't remember necessarily how I viewed the game before I got really good at it. And so it may have been really hard. I don't remember such, but in any case, one of my friends at school saw it, and he mentioned how hard it was and how impossible it was to beat. And I was like, oh, I can beat this game. And this was like, we had a free period, in this, it was like the last day of school, and we ended up just scheduling snafus. We had a free period, and so everybody was just hanging around and playing and talking and stuff, and he didn't believe me. So he spent the entire period, I say the entire period, it didn't take me that long. It's not that long of a game. But I spent a huge part of this period playing the game so that I could call him over and show him that I beat it. And I think he was actually less impressed than I had hoped, as I spent a significant part of my free time, when I could have been socializing with others, playing this game, just to show him I could. And now I'm starting to realize why I play on Twitch and stuff now. That's interesting. Anyways, we're going to dive into that. We do have a little bit of retro gaming news that has come out in the last few weeks, and I'm very excited to have Rangel Robertson on the line. He's coming to us with a report on some of these, pretty exciting news, in regards to retro video games. Rangel, are you on the line?
Yeah, Kai, I'm here. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Very, very exciting news. There's been a lot of focus this week on the demo for the remake of Final Fantasy VII, and this is a game that has been in development for absolute years, and it's just been very highly anticipated, and we have the demo out.
Yeah, but that's not all, and this was not on my radar because I don't really pay that close. I don't pay nearly enough attention to things, but the demo also from Square Enix for the remake of Seiken Densetsu 3, now, as we finally have an English release, as Trials of Mana was also dropped. And so that's pretty big news. And, I gotta say, I was, when I went into this, I thought this was going to be, kind of, just a remaster of the original game, kind of like what we got with Secret of Mana, where we had some updated graphics and some, kind of 3D perspective stuff, but it was essentially the same game. But when I played it, I didn't find it to be such at all.
Oh, you played that demo?
Yeah. I downloaded it for PC and got to play that one a little bit, and I was very, very excited about it.
Oh, yeah, because I really thought you were going to play the Final Fantasy VII demo.
No, I haven't gotten a chance to play that one. I went for the Trials of Mana demo.
Because I really thought you were going to be able to cover the Final Fantasy VII stuff, and so I spent all my time looking into Trials of Mana.
You were supposed to report on both of them.
Well, I know, Kai, but you talk a lot, and a lot of times you just kind of, start rambling about stuff that I'm supposed to be covering, and I didn't want to just do all that work, and so I really wanted to impress you on a game that I didn't think you knew that much about. I remember that you told me at one point that you had never played Seiken Densetsu 3, and so that when this came out, I was very excited. I did a lot of research on it, and now I thought that you'd be able to cover the Final Fantasy remake.
I can talk a little bit about Final Fantasy remake. I'll say this, surprisingly, people are really digging it. And I don't mean that to mean that, it's like I was expecting just a crappy game, but it's just like this has been hyped for so long, and they have said so many things that have been honestly worrying, like making this making it multiple parts and releasing it one part at a time, that had just, has made a lot of us scratch our heads. But then they said no, each part is going to be like a full length game. And that also made us scratch our heads. Cause it's personally, the whole Midgar section, which is good, which is essentially the first game, the whole Midgar section is stretched, pretty much as far as it can possibly be stretched in the original game. Perhaps even a little bit more so. but that being said, it's like there's been a lot of real excitement about this, and that people like the battle systems and the way it feels and the way it plays. And so it looks like Square's onto something here, and so we are looking forward to the release of the full game relatively soon, and to see how it holds up to the original.
Gee, I knew that I would just get you talking on it, and you would just kind of blather on for a while.
I wasn't blathering.
Well, I don't know, a little bit.
You know what? Whatever. Second Necessity 3. What can you tell us about this game?
Yeah, so this is like this was part of the Mana series in Japan that was. It just got kind of butchered over here. I mean, the first game they released as Final Fantasy Adventure, and then the second game was Secret of Mana. We finally got one that named Mana, and then they just skipped Trials of Mana for the Super Famicom, and it's actually one of the games that is very, very well respected amongst the fans, and so there has been a lot of effort to bring it over. There's been a very, very thorough fan translation, and they finally released it in Collection of Mana very, very recently. But finally we are actually seeing not just like a full release, but a full remake of it.
Rangel, that was really good.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and actually, that's when I plugged this in, like I mentioned, I was expecting kind of a graphical and sound upgrade like they did for the Secret of Mana remake. I guess it wasn't. I'm not sure the Secret of Mana remake was considered a remake or a remaster or whatever the case may be. But they added some voices. They added some just better graphics, a little perspective, a little 3D rendering, and it looked very, very cool. But it was essentially the same game, and furthermore, the acting was pretty bad, and a lot of people reacted very badly to it. A lot of people really did like it. I actually did not get to play that one, but that's kind of what I expected. But this is a full remake. It in full 3D rendering, over the shoulder perspective, where the battle system has been upgraded. It's been sped up. It's more energetic. It's very lively. It's very pretty. I mean, these games have always been some of the most gorgeous games made. But it's a very, very pretty game, and one that I was really starting to get into. And I don't really play 3D games because it gives me motion sickness. But I was really enjoying this. It feels good. The battle system feels good, and I'm actually pretty pumped about this.
Yeah, it looks just really, really good. I did some comparisons where I watched like specifically the thief guy, this whole prelude thing in the Super Famicom version and the new version, and it's definitely the same story and the same characters and the same events, but it's been so broadened and bigger. Yeah, it's a lot bigger, and so I totally agree that this is turned out to be very, very, very cool remake. I'm looking forward to playing some more of the demo and picking up the
the full version when it comes out. So in playing this, like I said, I've never played the original, and I was really impressed because depending on who you pick for your main character, and you have 6 choices, you pick a main character and you pick a couple of side characters. So this is from the same list, but you have a different intro and a different starting point for each one, and it sounds like the paths kind of overlap as you go. But I mean, what a really cool concept, especially for Super Famicom era, and just the detail they put into each story is very, very neat. So there's been one other release that kind of caught my eye, and this was a surprise to everyone. But they put Symphony of the Night on your telephone, and
yeah, I didn't hear anything about this.
Okay, well, Rangel, 1 out of 3 is better than normal.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll disconnect. I'll catch you later, Rangel, and we'll chat more in a bit.
All right, sounds good, Kai. Thanks.
Okay. So yeah, Soten on your cell phone, which is kind of crazy, and it was $3 at least initially. I don't know what it is now, or whenever you're listening to this. But for $3, I was like, oh, I got to try this out. So I don't have a Bluetooth controller. It does support that. So I was doing touchscreen commands, which is, if there's a problem with this game, it's that. And otherwise, the game feels really good. And when my fingers are hitting the right spots, it feels like you're back. It feels good. I can't tell you how many times I kept hitting the face of my phone, trying to get the sword to swing, and just realizing that my thumb has moved off that button. And that's frustrating. I think it's designed for touchscreen as well as it possibly could be. This kind of thing, it kind of works when I'm playing like Dragon Quest, which I play quite a bit on my phone, just going through the Dragon Quest games. It works fine with like a JRPG like that, but on an action game, when you're off and you have to take your focus off the boss and down to the icons of where you're pressing, even that slight move just kind of knocks you off your game a little bit. Now that being said, is it worth $3? Oh, heck yeah. I've had way more than $3 worth of fun with this, and it's been just absolutely a blast to get back into this world. And I've been thoroughly impressed with how it translates, and getting back into the castle and beating up some undead. And so I've had a blast with it. I've absolutely had a blast with it, even through some frustrating moments, where I had to fight the first boss of the game actually far too many times because, first of all, because I'm terrible at the game, but secondly, because there were a few times when I should have won that game, but I'm charging in and I'm pressing sword, and nothing is happening. I'm like, my finger has slipped off. And so that is very, very, very frustrating. So, let us get into our topic a little bit. So as a kid, I was very, very, very much into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are awesome. And if you have only experienced like the Michael Bay version, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. I've kind of filled in a lot of the gaps, as an adult. I was not in on like the original comics. I've read them since then, and they're fantastic. But I watched the original cartoon and the original independent movie that was made. I point out that it was an independent movie because this thing was so big at the time, surprisingly so, because this was super low budget, no big names at all. No one we'd ever heard of in it. You know, I mean, the turtle suits that they had to wear looked fine. They looked fine. But I mean, if this movie came out today, you'd be like, what in the world is going on? This is exactly what you expect from a movie, an independent film, a cheesy independent film from the 80s. I think it was 80s. It might have been early 90s, but in that time period. And it was a smash hit. It was at that time the biggest independent film, moneymaker ever. And it was just huge. And I still to this day, I love that film. As corny as it is, I absolutely love that film. And so, I had all the toys and such, but, I didn't have the NES games right away. I played the arcade game. I beat the arcade game with just a small fortune of quarters. And we were playing it 4-player. It was at a party at one of these funplexes, whatever they were called back in the day, that had, batting cages and go-karts and, putt-putt and in an arcade. And so we were playing 4-player on this thing, and we all dropped a lot of money on that game that day. My friends and I made like little weapons from sticks. I was Raphael. And so I had 2 sticks and they were shorter than like Leonardo, who had 2 sticks and they were longer. If you're completely oblivious to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, each of the turtles have like their own weapon. But, yeah, I knew about the NES games, but the game I actually had was the Game Boy game. And this was, fall of the Foot Clan. And this came out in 1990. And it was like an action fighter, game. I would say more akin to a beat 'em up than a platformer. It felt like, okay, so like of the games we knew then, and the arcade game was going to NES the same year. And so of the games we knew at the time, this was more akin to the arcade game than it was to TMNT 1 for the NES, which was much, much more of an action platformer. Some parts that were not quite fair. More adventure style, where you're trying to find your way, you're trying to get through all these places. Where this was very much, it's like, walk right and attack type of a thing, which was more akin to the arcade game. Now, the port of the arcade game to the NES was more isometric, where you can, like we would kind of expect from beat 'em ups at the time, where, you can walk the width of the street too, where this was just a straight 2D, left to right, adventure. And so it didn't have the kind of versatility of like the arcade game. But what I liked about it is that it took the limitations that it had and really made something special with them. And so, there's a couple of different areas where that happens. And one of those areas where that happens is actually the music. Because look, I love old video game soundtracks. I love chiptune. I love, 8-bit, 16-bit. I love all that stuff. I don't listen to a lot of Game Boy music because, it doesn't come through nice. It's, whatever chip they were using for the Game Boy, it gets irritating very quickly. But the soundtrack to this game is, for the technology, really, really, really good. And I've always held it in kind of high esteem. So it wasn't until much more recently that I, kind of just started looking into, like the people behind this game. And I was actually kind of surprised to see that Michiru Yamane is the one who did the music. Now, you're going to know her probably from a few different games. I think most notably is Symphony of the Night, which I think is one of the truly just amazing, spectacular video game soundtracks of all time. She's done a lot of Castlevania work, a lot of Castlevania stuff, where she came in on the series in 94 with Bloodlines, and she has just been on project after project for the next 15 years or so. So she is, a big name in video game composers, and one of those that I really, really like. Now, she's kind of become known for the Castlevania style, for that, kind of great gothic, action, packed music, where this is much more light and poppy, as befitting a game like this. But at the same time, she comes with it with that kind of appropriate sound, a sense of excitement to the adventure itself. And when we jump to the break, I'm going to play a little bit from actually a couple of songs, at the very beginning, because, just to hear how the original TMNT cartoon theme comes through on Game Boy. And there's a billion different ways you can mess that up, but I actually think this is pretty cool. But then we're going to listen to another track from the game, because I think this is like, and I have to put that disclaimer on it, for Game Boy music. But even without the disclaimer, this is stuff that I can listen to, and I think is a lot of fun, and not a lot of Game Boy music does that. And so that is very, very cool. So we're going to actually jump and do that, just as, a little bit of an early break, but just to get us into the music a little bit. And then we're going to jump back and go over a little bit some of the other elements of the game that I think are just a lot of fun. Okay, we are back, and so we're gonna get back into Follow the Foot Clan a little bit. as I said, this game came out in 1990, and it's a Game Boy game, and it's extremely limited. It's extremely limited in what it can do, because it's a Game Boy game. But even so, there's a lot packed into this, and plot is not necessarily one of them. This is going to follow the standard plot that we come to expect from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're going to fight through our main bad guys, and get to the Technodrome and fight Krang. And that's the point. We haven't quite reached like the Turtles in Time, timeline, or anything more complicated than that. This is as straightforward as you can possibly get. The gameplay itself is also very, very straightforward. You are mostly walking left to right. There are some, scenes where you're going down into the water, or whatever the case may be, and going to here and there, but you're mostly walking left to right, and you are being attacked. So there's a few things that this game does really, really well. First of all, it gives you it makes you feel like your attacks matter. Nearly every villain in the game, except for bosses, and I think there's one enemy in the Technodrome that takes 2 hits, but nearly every enemy in the game dies in 1 hit. And there's a few different ways you can do that hit. So you can do a jumping kick, you can swing your weapon, or if you crouch down and hit the attack button, then you actually throw a ninja star, which I think is actually a really cool addition to this game that we don't often see, even in the NES games. And so the turtles themselves, of course, you can play as any of the turtles. You can choose, and the only real difference is the sprite. They add a weapon. Game Boy is not in color, so they don't even change the color of the mask like you normally see in. I think if I'm right, the cartoon was the first one to do that. By the way, if you read the original comics, they're all wearing the same color mask, and that's difficult. But they eventually decided on the iconic 4 different colors of mask. But you can tell quite easily which one is which by their weapon, and it's really easy to kill the enemies, and so the way the game ramps up the difficulty is by throwing a lot of enemies at you, and there's almost always some bad guy on the screen, and it could be up to I think 4 is the most I saw on the screen. But this is not, they don't quite do it like the arcade or even like a traditional beat 'em up will do, where like several of them come out and you kind of wail on them for a little bit and there's a fight and then you keep going. This one is, they're coming at you, you're swiping them, you are just laying waste to ninjas left and right. There's different types of enemies coming at you from all directions, and you got to really be paying attention, because foot soldiers will either come in on foot, or they'll jump at you, or they'll jump over you to try to get behind you. And they come from both directions. And then there's environmental obstacles, stuff falling over, that sort of stuff. And there's a lot going on at the screen at the same time. And so even though the enemies are weak, there's so many of them that they can overcome you relatively quickly if you are not paying attention. Now, the other thing the game does to make you feel powerful is that it's really generous with its hitbox. It's surprisingly generous with its hitbox. If you come close to stubbing the toe of a foot soldier, he will die. And I love that. Because as ninjas are jumping at me from all directions and I'm trying to plow forward and just swinging and kicking and throwing my ninja stars, and they're all falling around me, that feels good. It feels like I'm doing a lot. It feels like I'm accomplishing a lot. And I love the feel of that in this game. It's Anytime you have like just like a horde of minions that you're taking out, that is a certain type of feeling, and it's not appropriate for every single game, but it is a cool feeling and something that I really love about this game. So in the first stage, it's the first stage. It might be the longest because you're going through the city streets, and then occasionally you'll duck down into the sewers. And so I think there's actually 4 sections to that one. And you come to the end and you face Rocksteady. Then stage 2 is in a factory, and at the end of that you're going to face Bebop. And that's also one of the kind of cool things about this game is that, and this is a lot like Super Mario Land, where all of the different areas look unique. Stage 3, which I believe is the shortest stage, but it's also my favorite because it just looks really cool. The bad guys have escaped with a convoy of trucks that are just hauling whatever the MacGuffin is. And you get on the back of the back one, and you are fighting your way up, over these trucks and to the front. And so you see like the background, flying past you in the back as you're jumping from truck to truck. Now these trucks are really close together, and I don't think you can actually fall between them at all. But it looks and it feels very unique. And at the end of that one, Baxter Stockman is who you will fight. Then you get into the mountain caverns, and this is where there's a lot of underwater segments in here. Not like that. No, not like TMNT for NES. Don't worry. No, don't put that out of your mind. You're actually you're still walking. You're still fighting. You're just fighting fish. But there's some areas with low water with logs on the top, and you can jump from log to log. And work as you work your way through here. And at the end of that is Shredder. And then we head over to the Technodrome. Now the Technodrome is, I always found legitimately hard, like legitimately tough. There's this one enemy. It is I forgot what these are called. So it's one of the robot enemies. It's not the little Mousers. It is it's the one that rolls around on one wheel and then shoots out that electrified whip at you. And they were in the arcade, they were the enemies to the first stage. But on that big screen on the TV, they're like, they're small and they're all over the place. On this tiny screen, they are huge, and they're the ones that take 2 hits, and when they shoot out that whip, it goes across the screen, and so you have to jump out of the way if they manage to get that attack off, and so you really got to watch them. I forgot to mention the jumps themselves. You jump super high in this game. It's one of the things that makes this game feel good. It feels like the Ninja Turtles are ready for action when you're like jumping up, across the entire screen vertically and then coming down on your enemies, is very cool. But, the Krang fight is final. I didn't think that Krang was ridiculously hard. One of the really hard things about him is he's super big, and so it's tough to get up and over him. And when he gets close to you, he'll kick you across the screen. And so, you kind of had to manage as much from a distance as possible. Your ninja stars, by the way, do not work on bosses. There'd be a nice way to cheese that, but they did anticipate that, and bosses just knock those things out of the way. And that is it. So I watched a playthrough on this, before recording, and it took that player about 20 minutes to get through the whole game. There is a stage select. I can't remember why I played the entire game in that class period, for my friend, instead of just jumping to stage 5 and just finishing it all in, about 4 or 5 minutes. But I didn't do that. I guess I just really wanted to play the entire game, or challenged me to, I don't know. But there is a stage select so that you can hit any area you want to. If you want to do what I do, and I jumped very often to stage 3 because it is very short. It's very short. You can play it very quickly. That stage is a lot of fun. There are some like mini games that you can find by going to certain spots on the map, and you'll be transported to a little mini game, just to, break things up and get some extra lives and that sort of thing. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. It is very straightforward. There's not a lot of plot, nothing we're not expecting, but it's a fun little brawler where you can, just gotta blow through some ninjas and feel good about taking out 5 gazillion, evil ninjas from the city, which is always good and something that we should all be striving more for is ridding our cities of evil ninjas. So if you are on Discord, or on the Facebook page, tell me what you thought about this game. Was this something that you really got into? Did you play it as a kid? Have you played it as an adult? I did. I asked a few friends what they thought about it, and one of them reminded me of that they saw this in the Game Boy Player's Guide from Nintendo Power. So, so you understand, if you were a subscriber to Nintendo Power back in the day, this was a thing that, every year they'd be like, hey, renew your subscription. We'll give you a bunch of free stuff. And the free stuff was serious. Like, most famously, the free thing one year was a video game of Dragon Warrior. But this one year they gave us some really sweet bound books, they're very nicely bound books, with strategies about certain things. And so, like, there was one was just dedicated to Super Mario World, and then there was a Super NES one, and they had some really in-depth stuff. So the Game Boy one comes out, and it was like, oh, I have that, and I grabbed my copy of it. And I did not remember this being so in depth. Like, when you open it up, the first, they start talking about in-depth reviews, and I'm like, yeah, okay, in-depth reviews, sure. But you start looking at it, and like, there is page after page after page. The first game is Super Mario Land, and it has maps all the way to the final boss. TMNT comes next, and it is 8 pages long, and it has maps of every single world, again, right up to the final boss, with little notations of where you can find pizza, or whatever the case may be. And this was great. Like, if y'all don't remember, like, these old guides where, the way they had to put these together was like, take a picture of every screen and kind of stitch these pictures together. And so, like, every half inch you see a turtle there, because the turtle was on the screen when they snapped the picture. And you can see the lines where all the pictures were stitched together, because they didn't have exactly the same, it didn't come out exactly the same in each one. And obviously we can do these things much more better these days. But, back in the day, and this, when this stuff came out, this came out in 91. Back in these days with Nintendo Power, this is how they made these maps. They either hand drew them, or they started snapping pictures everywhere they went. And that's how you got, these kind of Nintendo Power in-depth maps that are just fantastic and great. And I was happy to peek through this guide again, because there's so many just great games in here that have very, very in-depth reviews and strategies and such. So with that, Oh, wait, hey, you know what? We actually have a call. Let's grab the call. Hey, you're on the line.
Guy, man, hey, this is Stevee Lee, dude.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going all right. I wanted to give you a quick musical correction.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. Definitely. If I made a mistake, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, man, that song you're playing that, during the break, that's not from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, dude. That's Thundercats.
No, that was definitely Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Dude, yeah. I mean, you're just wrong. I know when you get stuff in your head and you think it's one way, but it's not. And that's definitely Thundercats.
This is like one of those songs that I remember from my childhood, and I can sing every single word of it.
Well, if you did sing every single word, they would be Thundercats.
No, it goes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power.
Dude, no.
Yes, that's how it goes.
No. It goes like this, man. It goes thunder, thunder, Thundercats, thunder, thunder, Thundercats, thunder, thunder, Thundercats, Thundercats, ho! See, you gotta get that ho in at the end.
That is not that song.
Dude, I'm a musician, man. You gotta trust me.
Stevie, I'm a musician.
Well, no, I mean, like with a band.
I'm with a band. The Techno Funk Boys, a band.
Wait, I mean, yeah, but you're like the singer.
What do you mean I'm the singer?
No, man. I'm like the guitar. I'm like the lead guitarist. I'm like handling like the music, and the singer is like handling other stuff.
Not music.
Right.
First of all, that's not true. But secondly, we're mostly instrumental. I write all the songs.
You've released like a lot of Mega Man and Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games.
But okay, no, I mean, what are original songs?
Original songs? Like you're saying you wrote Mega Man?
No, not Mega Man. We do soundtracks. We do the Dyson Dreary podcast and In Defense of Liberty. We write all of that stuff.
And you're telling me that you go over to the musicians in the band and you hum something and then they put it together as a song?
No, I mean I write it down as a song. I play synth and guitar for the band.
I thought you were the singer.
We barely have any vocals at all. We're mostly instrumental.
I'm pretty sure, dude, you're the singer.
Okay. It's clearly Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you go look up the song, you're going to hear Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
If it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, why do they go the ho at the end of the song?
They don't do that.
I'm pretty sure they do, man.
Okay. All right. That's it. We really appreciate you joining us today. I hope that you are staying safe and well during all of this, all of the pandemic that is happening right now. But I do appreciate you taking time out to join us today. If you are able to and have found value in our show, I would ask you to consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/technofunkboy. And you can join there at a couple of tiers, and we have a lot of music for you to download there, some videos, some special programs that you can check out there. Check the show notes page for our Discord channel, or on Discord just search out Techno Funk Boy, and please do join us over there. We have a lot of fun talking retro games and Dungeons and Dragons and all sorts of fun stuff. So I hope that you will see us there. And as always, please do leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast or whatever podcast app that you prefer. Again, thank you, and we're going to catch you next week. We are hoping either next week or the week after that we're going to be back with RTSs, but that is going to depend on how the coronavirus progresses. But we will be back one way or another next week, and we will see you then.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening. Keep gaming. And once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time, then you can game later.